Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Jessica Donovan here. And today we are talking about fragrances, synthetic fragrances and perfumes, where they're found, why you want to think about avoiding them within your house, and especially when it comes to your kids' exposure to them. And, you know, we're just really going to delve into this subject a little more today. So last week on episode 17, I had a conversation with Tammy from Building Biology Mama, and we talked about some of the hazards and chemicals and toxins that are found within the home. And it was really, you know, an overview. This subject is huge. So I wanted to, over the next couple of episodes, talk about some specifics and some of the areas that are a really good idea to start with if you're wanting to start to reduce toxins and chemicals within your home and, as I said, your kids' exposure to these. So if you haven't had a listen to episode 17 with Tammy, make sure you do. We kind of give an overview of this subject of creating a healthier home for your family. And we also talk about EMFs, electromagnetic fields, which is a really interesting area to know more about. And I also talk a little bit about fragrances as toxins in episode 4, which is the 4 pillars of healthy kids. And these are the 4 different areas that we focus on here at Natural Super Kids to improve kids' health and nutrition. And one of those areas is reducing exposure to toxins and chemicals, which is so super important for our kids. So if you're interested in this subject, make sure you also have a listen to episode 4 and episode 17, which, as I said, is with Tammy from Building Biology Mama. So I wanted to delve into this subject because I think when we're starting to think about reducing our kids' exposure to toxins and chemicals, synthetic fragrances is a great place to start because they do have so many negative health impacts, which we're going to be talking about today, and they are found literally everywhere. So if we can start to reduce our use of these products that contain synthetic fragrances, we are doing it's a big tick for our kids' health and our family's health. Now, I recently got back from a little trip away. We went away for a week of the school holidays to one of our favourite all-time little coastal towns called Robe in the southeast. It's almost halfway between Adelaide and Melbourne. We just love Robe so much, so many great things to do. It's a really great combination of lots of outdoor activities. There's lakes, there's the ocean, there's great bike riding, but then there's a great little town with, you know, beautiful restaurants and cafes and gift shops and that sort of thing. So anyway, we recently went there for a week and had a lovely time, and we hired an Airbnb, as you do. And as soon as I walked into this beautiful, cute little Airbnb a couple of streets back from the beach, the smell hit me. And I knew that there were, you know, synthetic fragrances. And this is the thing, when you stop using synthetic fragrances in your home, then you become super sensitive to them and fragrances generally as well. So I walked into this home and this kind of synthetic fragrance hit me, and I quickly gathered up the reed diffusers. There was 3 of them around the home, and just popped them outside for the duration of our stay. So that was something that I, you know, when I was doing that, I thought, oh, I need to talk about this on the podcast. And also it's come up a few times with our members in the Natural Super Kids Club recently. And I think it's a really really great place to start, as I said, when we're thinking about healthifying our homes. So I wanted to build on that conversation that I had with Tammy last week, really focusing on fragrances. So these synthetic fragrances are found everywhere. Obviously, they're found in things like air fresheners and those plug-in air fresheners that are really common these days, the reed diffusers that I was just talking about, in perfumes, in aftershaves, in scented candles, in almost all cleaning and personal care products, from creams and deodorants and even makeups and sunscreens to things like laundry detergents and even rubbish bags. A few years ago, I accidentally bought those scented rubbish bags, and the smell of them is just so strong. So I think, it goes with this whole idea, this hygiene idea that we're sold as mums, that things need to smell fresh and be ultra hygienic for our kids to be safe. But really, the opposite is true. These fragrances that make us feel like things are clean and fresh are actually having a detrimental effect on our health as humans, and especially our kids' health. Things like incense contain fragrances, and I don't know about you, but when I was a teenager, I used to burn a lot of incense in my bedroom. Things like toilet deodorizers, and even really unusual things. So I just wanted to also bring up a conversation that came up in the Natural Super Kids Club just a couple of weeks ago. One of our club members, Charlie, brought to our attention the fact that she was looking at purchasing this beautiful little doll for her daughter, and soon found out that it had fragrance in it, like synthetic fragrance. So these things are everywhere. You really do need to be on the lookout. If anything that smells, you need to be thinking about these synthetic fragrances. So it is really hard to move away from them completely, but we can, really start to make small steps, which is what we are all about here at Natural Super Kids, to start to reduce the use of these kinds of things in our homes. Now, it's a tricky area because these synthetic fragrances and perfumes are literally made up of thousands of different chemicals, things like petrochemicals and phthalates and all kinds of nasty chemicals with known adverse health effects. But manufacturers get around this because they are not required to list out all the ingredients that are contained within a fragrance or a perfume because of trade secrecy laws. So what we want to be looking out for is fragrance on the label or perfume on the label. These are two red flags that there are synthetic fragrances made up of hundreds or thousands of different chemicals that we know have adverse health effects, as I said. So let's go through some of these health effects, and they are significant. And this is not, an exhaustive list, but these are some of the common health effects that are associated with the chemicals that are used within synthetic fragrances and perfumes. Headaches, migraines, asthma and respiratory problems, neurodevelopmental disorders in children, thyroid disorders, allergies, contact dermatitis or eczema, dizziness, nausea. So many of the chemicals that are used within synthetic fragrances are neurotoxins. That is, they are toxic to our neurological system. They are endocrine disruptors, so they disrupt our hormone balance and they can act as hormones within our body as well. And a lot of them are known carcinogens as well. I mean, it just blows your mind that chemicals like this are allowed to be put in things like air fresheners that are sprayed around our homes and around our children and babies. So as always with chemicals and toxins, children and pregnant women are particularly vulnerable. As we talked about last week with Tammy, touched on this, children are not just small versions of us. They have different, they have obviously a higher rate of growth. Their detox pathways are immature, and so they cannot handle or detoxify toxins and chemicals like we can. And obviously, pregnant women are growing a very precious little bundle inside. And so they are, again, particularly vulnerable to the health effects of these kinds of chemicals and toxins that are found in synthetic fragrances and perfumes. So we want to be really careful of these things. And as I said, it can be really difficult to avoid them altogether. But as I said, anything that smells, you want to be thinking about, what is in this, and what could I sort of replace this with that is more natural. And it is really concerning that manufacturers don't need to label all the ingredients within a particular product. So even if you don't get any obvious symptoms when you are exposed to a fragrance, or if you think, I've been wearing perfume all my life and I've never had headaches from it, I don't have asthma, I've got nothing wrong with my thyroid. These substances, as I said, are neurotoxins. They are endocrine disruptors, and they are known carcinogens, many of them as well. So if that's not a good enough reason to reduce or eliminate your use of these things, then I'm not sure what would be. So I hope that that is really enough to inspire you to start to reduce your use of these chemicals and fragrances and synthetic fragrances within your home and within the products that you are using. So let's talk about how we can actually do that in a practical sense, because we all like to none of us want a smelly home or a smelly body. So we want to make sure things are fresh and they smell nice. But overall, I think generally we can use less smelly things. When we think about, the products that we use as women, particularly the different creams, lotions, makeups, body washes, shampoos, conditioners, hair products, sunscreens, we're literally putting dozens of products onto our bodies and faces and skin every day, a lot of us. And so we want to start to think about minimizing the amount of products that we're using, and certainly minimizing the products that we are using that contain synthetic fragrances. For this reason, women are more vulnerable generally to the adverse health effects of synthetic fragrances, because we use more generally of these kinds of products. So using less smelly things, fresh air, opening up the house, the doors, the windows, having good screens so you can keep your doors open regularly. This is great for a fresh smelling house, but it's also really good for indoor air quality, to air out our house and open the doors and windows as often as possible. Things like pot plants, which are really popular at the moment, and fresh flowers and freshly cut herbs around the home can really help to, create that lovely smell within the home that is more natural, not so synthetic. Looking for things that are fragrance free. So, you can often find washing powders that are fragrance free, or skin creams that are fragrance free. Fragrance free doesn't necessarily mean there are no damaging chemicals or no toxins and chemicals in there that we need to avoid. But fragrance free is a good move when we're trying to reduce the amount of fragrance that we use. So looking for fragrance free products can be really helpful. Now, I just wanted to say a little note on unscented, because you would think that unscented and fragrance free mean the same thing, but unscented can still have fragrance added to it to cover up the fragrance of the chemicals or the other products that are used, other ingredients that are used within there. So looking for fragrance free as opposed to unscented is an important differentiation. And then we can use more naturally based fragrances. So 100% pure essential oils, and we can use those or buy products that contain these as opposed to synthetic fragrances and perfumes. When we're looking for perfumes, for room sprays, for cleaning products, for personal care products, for toilet deodorizers. And so there's a whole range of different safer products that we can buy and that we can make ourselves using essential oils. Now, essential oils are fantastic, particularly for the uses that we're talking about today, for deodorizing rooms and using in cleaning products. We do still want to be very careful with essential oils, though. They are very concentrated. They're not always safe to use on children or in pregnant women. So we do want to we don't want to just assume that all essential oils are safe because they're natural. But generally, if we're choosing, the roller perfume, essential oil based perfumes as opposed to the synthetic perfumes, that's a huge step in the right direction. And that's certainly what I do for, those kind of using those essential oil rollers as opposed to perfumes. It's been years since I have used any perfumes because of my knowledge of this area of fragrances. So I also just wanted to mention that there is there's loads of different options these days when it comes to more naturally based products and more eco-friendly based products, and just making sure that we are avoiding anything that says fragrance or perfume on the label. But a really great resource that I love is an online store called Biome. I will pop the link to the Biome store in the show notes, and they have a really great range of natural perfumes using 100% essential oils, and more natural skincare and cleaning products, and their standards are really high. So when you're purchasing from the Biome store that it's really going to be natural and safe to use. So that's one of my favorite online stores to purchase personal care products, cleaning products, and natural perfumes. Now, if you are a club member, we have an essential oil resource in the club for you. I interviewed an aromatherapist, and she provided a list of Australian-made essential oils. So if you're a club member, definitely go and check that out. I know essential oil companies such as doTERRA and Young Living are really popular, and they do make beautiful products, but they are not Australian-based companies. And I, for one, prefer to support Australian-based companies. So when you're looking at essential oils, though, you want to make sure that they are 100% pure essential oils. There are a lot of essential oils out there that will have fragrance in them. So that really defeats the purpose, and they tend to be the cheaper ones. I know, again, a conversation came up in the Natural Super Kids Club a few months ago about the Kmart essential oils and why they are so cheap. And, on closer examination of the label, there is synthetic fragrance in those essential oils. So you do need to be really careful about, making sure that there aren't any of those synthetic fragrances in the products that you buy. So I would love to hear from you. I would love you to DM me on Instagram, direct message me on Instagram at Natural Super Kids, and let me know what one action step you are taking to reduce your family's exposure to these health-damaging fragrances, synthetic fragrances and perfumes. I always love to hear from podcast listeners, and Instagram's a great way to get in touch. And so we are over at Instagram at Natural Super Kids. You can find us over there. And also, if you have enjoyed this episode and it has inspired you to make a change, I would love for you to review the podcast. When you review the podcast, it helps more mums find this really important information. So head on over to iTunes is the easiest place to review the podcast, and leave us a review. That's another great way that you can connect and give us some feedback. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will be back next week. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week.